Now that we know all the changes coming in Season 2, we can do a full meta prediction breakdown. This is because there are many characters that are dominant in both ranked and pro play that didn't get nerfed at all. And there are other characters that really got super buffed to the point that they most likely will spawn new metas in both ranked and pro play. But in this Season 2 meta deep dive, we're going to break all that down, but our question of the day, is there any character that you think people are still underrating even now, nearly 6 months into the release of the game? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, the first category of characters I want to talk about are characters that were strong or dominant, but they didn't get nerfed or removed in any meaningful way. And the first one, I think the biggest one, is Groot. Groot was undoubtedly the best tank last season. He was incredibly powerful, incredibly banned. He was dominant in pro play, extremely good alongside Bucky, with one of the most powerful catalyst ultimates that can be comboed with a million things like Namor whales or Moon Knight going into this season. He's also one of the best characters at bullying other tanks and keeps characters like the Thing in check because Groot is like the hardest counter that he has. And in general, this character is just really, really strong, and a lot of pro players were shocked that he didn't get nerfed. So I think not only is right now a great time to learn Groot, I'm learning him myself, but also Groot is likely to be continuously dominant going into this next season, even if there are other strong things that can kind of match him and rival him, which we'll talk a little bit more later. Groot is still going to be good, undoubtedly. Now, while we're at it, I did want to mention Bucky. This is a character that did receive a quite substantial nerf in his hook cooldown and the fact that his ultimate doesn't do as much damage. And the insta-kill threshold is lower now, so it's going to be harder to confirm kills. But even in spite of that, Bucky is still going to be a really strong character because they didn't fundamentally change the base of his kit. They didn't change how he interacts with Loki, who's going to be one of the strongest characters in the game going forward still. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. So Bucky, especially in a world where Groot is still really good, is also still going to be really good. So yeah, Bucky's not going anywhere. I'm sorry to say that, but he's most likely going to be viable still in pro play, and he's definitely going to still be very strong in ranked. Now, another thing that they didn't touch is the res comp. That synergy, the highest win rate synergy, one of the building blocks for the strongest compositions in pro play, did not get touched in a meaningful way, the specific synergy itself. Now, the characters did, and we'll talk about that in a second, but the actual comp is still very, very strong. Being able to all resurrect, turns out, being able to flip a fight when you got a whole bunch of people picked off, that's really insane. And the fact that you can just play Adam, Mantis, Star-Lord with another support, triple support with 2 tanks, means that you'll just have so much offensive pressure while also being extremely stable as a composition because there's extra amounts of heals, really strong utility. It's just going to be something that's still going to be strong. However, there's a couple important notes. All 3 of these characters got changed. Adam and Star-Lord direct nerfs. Mantis got a nerf and a buff. So Mantis got that reduction in health, but now she can stack damage boost up to 16 seconds on a target. That's a lot, and heals as well. She can basically have it to where a whole bunch of people are stacked with long amounts of passive heal and passive damage boost, which I think could be really good in some situations. I mean, being able to give a Star-Lord 16 seconds and that Star-Lord gets to fly around and do whatever he wants, or being able to give a Black Widow 16 seconds, that sounds kind of horrifying. But I do think that in a way this can be a buff to Mantis, but 25 health is actually a big deal on a character that you really want every drop of health possible to stay alive. Mantis already feels pretty fragile, and I do think that you're going to be the target of Spidermans and Black Panthers in ranked play. So yeah, that is going to be a felt change, especially in ranked. And then Adam going from 30 to 40-second soul bond is crazy. I still think that Adam is going to see play in the res comp specifically, but I think he's a lot weaker outside of the res comp. And combined with this last change, which is Star-Lord no longer getting as much ult charge and having fall off on his E, which was one of the most broken aspects about him, being able to get bubbled in by Magneto. He spins around, he gets a ton of ults. He has ults incredibly fast. He gets damage boosted by Mantis. Like, the synergy worked so well in the res comp because the res synergy itself is very, very powerful, but all the characters individually were also very, very powerful and abusable. So I do think that this comp has taken a hit. I do think it's really powerful still, and honestly, it was really underplayed in ranked play relative to how strong it was. Like, people should have been abusing this comp all the time in Eternity Plus games, and honestly, you wouldn't even see it all the freaking time, even when it was not banned, which is weird. I think it just took a while for people to understand just how powerful this comp was, and towards the end or the latter parts of the season, people started playing it more and more and more, and I still think it's underplayed right now on the existing patch. But in the future, while I do think it's still going to be strong, it is most likely not going to be underrated anymore or underplayed at any metric. Now, a real one to talk about that I wanted to mention quickly is Namor. Namor is strange to play now, because while I think that Gamma Squid is very comparable, even more powerful in some situations, to the slow squid, the ice squid, it's harder to fit Namor in a composition now than it was before. Because here's the thing about Namor that's so good. Namor not only got to benefit from having that extra squid with the Luna, but he also got to get damage boosted with his ultimate in combination with Luna ult to get one shot. He's very good with Groot, but if you play Namor with both Luna and Groot, then where do you fit in the Hulk? You playing a Hulk Groot, it's just like, it creates a lot of weird aspects, and we'll talk more about Hulk later, because I do think he's strong enough to make a dent in pro play now. It's weird to find the comps to make it make sense, right? Now, it could end up being worth fitting him in, but one thing that we're seeing a lot is that DPS, there's like a lot of them that are interchangeable. The best at DPS through like the 6th best are all like reasonable use case DPS. And this includes like Bucky, Namor, Hela, Psylocke, Star-Lord. And Psylocke is of course going to be stronger now with the Emma Frost team up. Talk a little bit more about that later. I know we're saying that a lot, but it's true. And then, like, these DPS can kind of be intermingled and changed out with each other. We could also include Storm in there and some of the longer distance poke compositions that want to spam damage from range. So there's a lot of these DPS that, like, kind of fill each other's slot. So if a DPS becomes awkward to fill in, then it might not see play, but if it's easy to fill in, then it will. So Namor still has a lot of the same strengths that he had before. He has consistent damage, consistent poke. He's hard to force out of an angle. He's hard to dive because he gets his bubble and relife, and he has an ultimate that can be comboed with, especially with damage boosts and catalyst ultimates like a Groot ult or a Thing ult. So is he strong enough to see play? Yes. Will he see consistent play? It depends on how easy it is to slot him in. For ranked play, though, yeah, Namor, Gamma Squid with Hulk is going to be really good. It's going to be really good. Now, for Luna, she's still super strong. She didn't receive a nerf at all, and this character is most likely a top 2 support, maybe a top 3. I know she did lose that synergy with Namor, but really, that's not the reason why Luna was as picked as she was. She's just so strong, from her ultimate to her consistent heal output to even her damage output to her ability to mark someone like a Star-Lord and give them constant healing with the Snowflake. Luna is just the entire package, and there's no reason to believe that she will not continuously be one of the most dominant characters in the game. She slots into so many compositions. I think whether you're playing a hypermobility composition or a poke long distance comp, she's still good. Like, she's always good, and I really do think that she's still consistently good, although, it makes it a little bit harder banning her, I think, because you're not hitting both Namor and her, so it makes it a little bit interesting in the banning phase of things. Maybe you just let her ride out, but I don't know. I don't think so. I think she's just consistently gonna be banned because she's so strong. She probably should be banned more in general. Luna's insane. Now, Hela, the changes are a little weird, right? She got buffed in one way, nerfed in the other, but the reality is the movement nerf coupled with the CC buff, I feel like they kind of neutral each other out. The CC buff is going to be better in some players' hands, but as a whole, it's not going to be a meaningful difference, especially in ranked play for Hela, and honestly, the most important aspect of her kit, which is the long distance damage burst, it's still there in full contact, no nerfs there, and then your alternate fire is actually doing more damage, and this is very surprising considering Hela has been long known to be the most powerful DPS character in pro play, perhaps the most powerful character period in pro play, capable of admin lobbying an entire lobby, even in pro level, and a character that in high level ranked even is dominating as well. I do think that Hela's a character that a lot of pros and a lot of high-ranked players thought would get nerfed because of how strong and dominant she is, but she didn't get nerfed really at all. She got changed around a little bit, but she's still going to be just as dominant as ever. It actually did surprise me that Hela didn't just get a flat nerf, but I do think that the balancing is not only tailored to high elo, and because Hela's a character that players don't really get good with until people have great aim, she kind of gets a pass even if at the high ranks and in pro play she's so dominant. So yeah, still a character to keep your eye on, and if you get really mechanically good with her, I think that she's still gonna be one of the best characters to play, period. Now for Magneto, he did get a slight nerf in his ultimate charge, but I'm going to be honest with you, that does not change how good this character is. He's still a top tank. Last season, or this season right now, Groot and Mag are 1 and 2. It's hard to know which one is which. I think Mag is more flexible because you can play him in compositions like with the Thing and with Venom as like a catalyst that can apply damage, bubble those characters in. Magneto is also, like, maybe the best, probably the best character against Wolverine, and he's just so good against so many different things. Like, so many different compositions. He doesn't really have a bad matchup necessarily, besides maybe Groot. With his consistent mid-fight burst, you can get pickoffs, and in ranked play, I think he's by far the best solo tank, because you just have the means to keep yourself alive with a shield that can absorb infinite damage, bubbles that you could use on yourself if you need to. You can bubble in your divers. There's just so much flexibility there. Magneto is going to consistently be a top tier tank in pro play and in ranked play. And if you've been like holding off on learning Magneto, now's the time to pick him up. Along with Groot, these characters are going to be super strong, still super dominant. There's no reason not to play these characters. Magneto especially is just a character that almost never gets banned, but is consistently very strong, reliable. Yes, you're going to get less ultimates overall, but it's not going to change the core neutral game of Magneto's kit. So Magneto's still going to be very, very good. Now, the next character is Invisible Woman. She was the 3rd best support this season. When we talk about pro play, it was Luna and Loki as the top 2, and Invisible Woman was always played when those 2 weren't played unless they were playing the res composition. Invisible Woman is just very strong, capable of creating separation by pushing people away or pulling tanks or people out of position in, pulling people off the high ground, moving people off the high ground, giving Helas and Storms unfair duels by constantly providing them with shields, and just a really strong ultimate. Maybe not as strong as something like Luna ultimate, but still very good, very comparable, and she has great heal and even damage output. Like, Invisible Woman is really good all around. She's actually now the most picked support in ranked play across all ranks, so she's very popular. And I know she just got a nerf to her shield, but it's such a tiny, minuscule nerf. It's really not going to be that relevant to the character's viability. This character is still going to be dominant both in ranked and pro play. No reason not to play her, pick her up, or learn her. I also think she has just insane carry potential in ranked play. So yeah, this character is gonna be super strong, and I don't necessarily think that she'll be able to take like a number 2 at one spot in ranked play, simply because Luna and Loki are still really good. So spoiler alert for Loki, they're still really good, and they're gonna be the best supports in pro play most likely. But yeah, Invisible Woman is very close behind them, like almost right behind them. And especially, I think you get a lot more value. Like an average Invisible Woman in ranked gets way more value than like a average Loki. So yeah. Now, Loki did get a nerf. 5 seconds is the nerf to his totem, but I'm going to be honest with you, compared to what happened to Adam, that's like a slap on the wrist. Remember that when you place down the totem, you already get the cooldown moving, unlike with Adam, where it doesn't move the cooldown until Soul Bond is done. Loki is also just like a character that people have realized is just crazy busted, crazy insane, just so powerful, capable of building an ultimate fast, applying damage, pressure, applying tons of burst healing with his ability that is basically an ultimate, and then an ultimate that could be whatever you need it to be at any given moment. This means that Loki is still going to be really great, and a lot of pro players were surprised that Loki only got nerfed this much because of just how powerful he is. A lot of players kind of don't think that Loki's that great, or don't play Loki that much because he seems complex and complicated, but I'm here to tell you that if you learn Loki, if you master Loki, or even get close to it, what you can pull off on this character is crazy. The Loki mains in chat will tell you, they'll tell you that they should never nerf their character. Don't nerf my Loki. But at the same time, they know he's broken. They know how powerful he is. And this 5-second nerf is not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything to meaningfully push Loki out of the meta, to meaningfully push Loki out of the top 2 supports. Loki's here to stay, and he's still going to be a staple in this next meta. Now, these are all the characters that for pro play we knew were established, and they didn't get meaningfully changed enough to make it so that they won't see play, so they'll probably still see consistent play in the next meta, with the caveat to both Namor because of his difficulty to fit in a composition, and the res comp because the synergy might not be enough power to offset the weaknesses or the nerfs to specifically Adam and Star-Lord. and a little bit of Mantis. So we'll see on those, but for the rest of the characters, which is Groot, Bucky, Luna, Hela, Magneto, Invisible Woman, and Loki, these characters are all still going to be dominant and meta, and that's not going to change anytime soon. But what about for ranked play? What are characters in ranked that have been dominant, have been strong, and people have been kind of being terrorized by them, but didn't get changed in any meaningful way or got slightly buffed? What are these characters? Now, the first one is Spider-Man, and I didn't really realize this until recently, but apparently there's a Spider-Man epidemic going on in all low elos, specifically because Spider-Man just gets to fly in, one-shot someone with a really forgiving uppercut, get a kill, and then dip out, right? And if he dies, his deaths don't matter as much, and he's back, combine it with the Venom, and Spider-Man can be an absolute mess. I know a lot of people are complaining about this, and I'm actually writing an anti-dive video right now. But in the meantime, let's talk about what Spider-Man gained in this patch. There is a couple of nerfs to some of the counters to Spider-Man. Characters like Bucky being weaker, that was a hook that now has 4 more seconds that could have canceled a Spider-Man ult or grabbed a Spider-Man. That's no longer the case. Namor Gamma Squid, while it does look like Namor Gamma Squid might be better against Spider-Man in some cases, I think the slow was very impactful. Plus, running Namor Luna is easier than running Namor Hulk. It's one of those things, like Hulk is harder to play, and you don't want a cosmetic Hulk because he's not going to do a lot. So in some of your lower elo games, you're going to be like, hey, we need to run the Namor synergy. It's not always going to be the case, so that's something important. Adam, with the 40-second soul bond, that's going to be really hard to do. Like, really hard to set up and deny a Spider-Man. I mean, he's going to bait it out with the first cycle, and it's going to be over. So I do think that in some ways, Spider-Man being untouched and being super strong, and Venom also probably a character that is going to be stronger this season than last because of some of those changes we talked about to the res comp nerfs and the Bucky nerfs and even the Namor changes. I do think that Spider-Man is going to be stronger this season. So it's something to look out for in ranked play, especially if you're like underneath the Grandmaster rank. Spider-Man might be a bigger problem now than before. So just keep that in mind. Now for Psylocke didn't get nerfed, and Psylocke was always on the cusp, right? Psylocke was always just a little bit behind Star-Lord, a little bit behind some of these other DPS that were played. I had her pegged this season as like the 6th or 7th best DPS because she was just behind the curve. But with characters like Namor getting harder to place in a composition, with characters like Bucky getting nerfed, with characters like Star-Lord getting nerfed, all of a sudden, Psylocke's looking a lot better, and then on top of that, add the new synergy with Emma Frost, and all of a sudden, Psylocke's looking better and better and better. And we're even seeing Psylocke play right now in pro play. Some teams are using it when they have a specialist of Psylocke on their team. I think next season, it's very likely that we see so much more Psylocke all over the place in both ranked and pro play. So if you're looking for a character to grind right now, I do think that Psylocke is going to be one of those ones that is kind of like Star-Lord was this season, where it's just known to be a very good and reliable character that you almost always have one on either one side or the other or both. So yeah, Psylocke's very, very good. And there's a lot of new combos coming out with the new synergy with Emma Frost. So yeah, in general, Psylocke's going to be a huge winner, a character that I really want you to keep your eye on going into the season, and someone that you should start practicing now if you want a good, reliable DPS. Now for Storm, she's interesting because she did lose that synergy with Thor, but I really didn't see that synergy all that often. That's not even the reason why Storm was good. And it seems like people just started sleeping on Storm out of nowhere. They don't play Storm, they don't ban Storm, and it's crazy to me because Storm is still super freaking strong. Very, very powerful ultimate that's reliable, very good consistent poke, and a Storm that knows how to use cover well vertically can be an absolute menace, constantly applying pressure, constantly building ultimates faster than almost any other DPS. And I still do think that Storm is the best flyer, even if Iron Man's going to be quite a bit better this season, and one of the characters that is on my list to watch as a character that could potentially come very meta. But Storm seeing meta play already, will probably still see some amount of ranked play going into the next season. And I'm going to say, especially in ranked play, up against players that don't have phenomenal pro-level aim, like Helas and Star-Lords that have amazing aim, Storm is just such a great ranked character that if you told me that you had 10 days to reach like Celestial or else your dog died or something, I tell you to lock Storm every game. This character is insane. Now, the Rocket plus Punisher team up, so it got removed from Bucky, right? And that is important, but something that is also important to understand is that Punisher still has it, and Punisher is still great. I mean, Punisher still has a really powerful shotgun, and he applies a lot of pressure, and that team up's still really good against things like Groot, The Thing, non-mag tanks. So anything that's not Magneto, you can abuse with this team up, and this team is still going to be really good. It's still a team up that I would highly recommend running. It's still a team up I would highly recommend abusing. And then the fifth one I wanted to talk about in this category is Magik. Still very strong, didn't get any meaningful changes, but a character that is still going to be good, brawls very well. And with nerfs to the res comp and nerfs to characters like Bucky, I do think that this leaves more room for Magik to be better because, you know, Magik hates Bucky. It being on a 12-second cooldown for his hook rather than an 8 gives Magik a lot more windows of time to make plays, you know, without being fearful of getting just hooked and instantly deleted. For pro play, probably not as much, but I think Magik is still very, very good for ranked play. Now, last up, let's talk about the new characters that got massive buffs, or just a new character entirely. How will they affect the meta most likely? What are the ways that they could affect the meta if they would? And what are the ways that they might not even see play at all? Let's talk about it. Now, Cap did receive some amount of nerfs, but the most important thing is he got a 5% damage increase and a slight increase in health as well, which him being more lethal is a big deal for Cap. It increases his combos. It makes it so he's not swinging at people with a pillow. This is all great, and I think Cap is actually going to be so much better in ranked play. He was already kind of on the cusp. I think this makes him a lot better for ranked play. However, let's talk about meta play and pro play. Is he gonna be good? And here's the thing, we haven't really seen full dive compositions yet. We haven't really seen it. Most of the time when we're seeing dive with like a Venom, it has a Magneto with him to bubble the Venom, to enable him from range and bring stability to the comp. As far as an all-in dive composition with two mobility heavy characters like both Cap and Venom together, we haven't really seen it. Now, does that mean that it's not possible? It could be possible, but I don't know until I see it. We can't prove it based on anything. In theory, having two hypermobility tanks would be really, really good, but until we see that combo working at a high level, it's hard to know whether or not that's going to be something that's possible. Now, could Captain America be synergized with something else? I mean, you could have Captain America Mag and have the Mag be bubbling in the Cap, and then have a Bucky in your backline jump into the Cap when he needs to. That could be something that happens, but I'm not entirely sure that Captain America gets that level of value that bubbling a Venom does, or even maybe a Hulk does. So basically, is this Captain America going to be strong enough to force a entire change in the format of the current compositions? Maybe. I'm not going to say no, but historically we haven't seen it yet. So one, I really do think that Cap is going to be very dominant in ranked play and very good. I'm still on the fence with him making a splash, some waves in pro play. Now next up is Peni, and Peni got some massive freaking buffs. Peni now can crit, Peni can move way faster, and I do think that Peni is going to be an absolute menace in the hands of some players, just taking over ranked lobbies from low to high elo. I do predict that before the midseason, people are going to be so fed up with Peni, it's going to be crazy because of how strong she's going to be and how many times you just randomly die, get one shot by mines you just couldn't see or you didn't know where they were. This is going to happen a lot. I think Peni's going to be amazing for climbing and ranked play, and a character I would suggest for you to double down and learn if you have any interest at all. That being said, will Peni see pro play? We really haven't seen it. We really haven't seen almost any Peni pro play. Is this going to be strong enough to push her into pro play? I don't really think so. I know that Peni is going to be very, very busted and very strong, but the problem with Peni is that I think she thrives better the less coordination a team has. So the less communication, the less ability to identify the threat, to work together, to deal with Peni, the better Peni is. So in a coordinated environment, she gets worse and worse and worse, but in the chaotic nature of ranked, she gets better and better and better. So I don't really think that Peni would see substantial pro play unless she got so buffed that she was just insane in ranked, completely dominant, and then she would see pro play. Is that the state she is in now after these buffs? We'll have to wait and see. I don't really think so, but once again, I don't know here. This is kind of a lot of theory crafting when it comes to Peni because we just have nothing to base it on. Now, number 3 is Hulk, and this is a character that I'm fairly confident will see play in pro play and will be good in ranked play. But the question is by what margin? Because Hulk got massively buffed, more uptime on the bubbles, more movement overall. You're just going to be able to move around more and move around slightly faster. Like, Hulk got some very big buffs, and with that new synergy with Gamma Squids on Namor, I don't necessarily think these characters synergize all that well together, but Gamma Squid looks so strong and Namor's such a good DPS that I do think that it's just gonna be fine. Like, you just put two powerful things together, it's gonna be good. And with the new changes to Iron Man, I do think that Hulk and Iron Man is also just still gonna be a very, very good combo together, because Iron Man's gonna be a lot better. So it's a no-brainer that Hulk is gonna be strong, gonna be played. I think that in ranked play, people need to relearn Hulk. A lot of people have kind of forgotten how, because he hasn't been as played and as picked. And I do think that he was actually a little bit underpicked this season, because players are just not comfortable with him. It's a lot easier to play a character like Magneto that you're more comfortable with or whatever. So as far as how dominant he'll be, we'll have to see. I do think that there's a lot of really strong things, and that existing characters, the existing meta, the Groot Magneto with Venom Mag and stuff like that, and even the Thing, these characters are not going anywhere. So where does Hulk fit in with that? Does he take over some of their pick rate spots? Is he played on more verticality based maps with high ground that he needs to contest? We'll have to wait and see on all that. But I do think that Hulk is going to be really good. I think he's a character that is going to be worth learning for ranked play especially. And I do think that there's a good chance he's going to see pro play. I'm actually almost positive he will be. So Hulk is like the biggest wild card in my mind, because even though there's a lot of buffs around, I think Hulk has the highest likely as a tank to mix up the meta in a serious way. Remember, out of any role, tanks are the roles that impact the meta the most. They're the ones that are the central like mechanism for any composition. So tanks dictate metas. As a general rule, tanks dictate metas. So tank changes are the ones you want to keep your closest eye on. Now, the next one we want to talk about is Emma Frost. This is a character that is hard to evaluate. We've always been like, you know, not the most correct collectively as a community about new characters, whether that's Mr. Fantastic, whether that's Human Torch, whether that's freaking even the Thing or Wolverine. Like, no one's really that good at figuring out if a character's good or not. I remember how many people were freaking out about the Human Torch, trailer. It's like, oh, you can combo with this with Storm. We can use 2 ultimates to trade for 1 Luna ult. Let's go. Like people were really hyped about that. I think that Emma Frost, while people are crazy hyping her up like to an insane amount, my first impression is that she is really good. My first impression is that she is really strong. My first impression is that alongside a character like Magneto with the synergy, she gets a lot of playmaking ability and she gets more freed up. Like, it's obvious that Emma Frost is not a tank that is going to be able to be a solo tank in my mind, or be a independent tank. She wants to be a quote-unquote off tank, someone that has more flexibility to contest, to fight, to peel, to deny. Like, all this stuff is good. Now, the one thing that I'm a little concerned about for her is that she doesn't have verticality. No way to get up to the high ground. And as an off tank in that slot, not being able to go contest something that is like above your team and shooting down, it kind of sucks. Like, it's really cool when you're playing Magneto and you're playing Magneto alongside some other character that can go up and contest. You know, you're playing Magneto with the Thor as an example or something. And now, this is not the golden rule. I mean, Mag Thing is really, really good, and neither of them have great verticality or any. But I do think that in general, I think Emma Frost is very strong. Her ultimate's strong, her ability seems strong, her CC seems strong, and she seems probably good against dive as well. And that might be good for a lot of you anti-dive or dive haters. And yeah, I mean, alongside a tank like Mag, Emma Frost seems great. Plus, the team up with Psylocke is also great. So, like, you just build that composition. Emma Frost, Mag, Psylocke. I think that's a good start. A good start. Round it out with broken supports like Luna and Loki, and add in a Hela, and boom, you have a great comp. There you go. You win games. I mean, I don't know what it's actually going to look like. There's also bans and stuff to consider, but it's clear that Emma Frost is powerful by herself in the right position in a comp, and she has really good team ups with characters that are also very, very good. It's good company alongside Psylocke and Max. So I do think that Emma will see play. How much play? Once again, it's hard to predict with tanks. Hulk and Emma are kind of wild cards. What they did here is they didn't massively change up the tank meta as it already exists. They just added new variables by heavily buffing Hulk and introducing Emma Frost, and we'll see what happens. Now, all that being said, there is another wild card going into this next patch, this next meta, and that's Rocket. How good is this hero going to be? It's hard to know. It's hard to know because Rocket was already good previously, And he was played even in pro play, but typically he was played alongside a Bucky. The Bucky would get ult really fast, and then, you know, you could combo off like crazy, use a combo with the amplifier, kill people through defensive ults. So now you can't do that with Bucky anymore. Bucky's also weaker in general. And then on top of that, you can't kill through defensive ultimates as reliably, or maybe even at all, with the new Rocket ultimate that doesn't give as much damage boost. But that's not what's really important here. What's important here is that Rocket now burst heals a crazy amount and has an ultimate that I think in a lot of ways is better than most defensive ults. Like, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I believe that Rocket ultimate might be the third best support ultimate in the game. First Luna, second Loki, third Rocket, above Mantis ult, above Invisible Woman ult. And the reason I say that is because, yes, you're not getting as much healing, but you're giving people enough healing to stay alive, to kite, to be alive, be, you know, able to back up if they need to, but also giving them more damage and pressure. So you're giving them a cushion right away, and then with the increase in pressure, they're not going to take nearly as much damage because the enemy is going to instantly start to eat that pressure, eat that damage, which means they're not going to be able to output as much, right? So I think that that synergy of health and damage to me together seems really, really strong. And that was probably the biggest weakness to Rocket. I'm not saying the Amplifier was a bad ult, because it could be used to kill defensive ults and combo and stuff like that, but it was obvious that a support defensive ult like a Luna ult was just insanely good, right? Now, Rocket gets to do a little bit of that, also has a res beacon, so you get to just win fights or reset fights that you would have lost. And, you know, then now he has this burst healing, like this really powerful get a Groot to full healing out of nowhere. I really think that this combination could make Rocket busted. Like, I know that I don't want to throw that term out too much, and we don't know yet until we get him in the game and we play him and we test him and we see him, but he's the ultimate biggest wild card on this entire list for me. Like, out of every character that we've seen changes, Rocket might end up being the strongest or the most impactful change. There's a chance that, you know, a month after the season, we're going to look at a pro match and it's just Rockets on both sides or Rockets getting nerfed. That is not something that I have removed from my brain, because I think it's possible, because I think there's a chance that Rocket's broken. Now, maybe he's not. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm not even definitively saying it. I'm just saying that he's the wild card for me because of how different he is and how good these changes look for coordinated play, and just his objective power level I think is way higher now than it was before. Now, quickly, there's two other groups of characters I wanted to talk about. Number one is snipers. Hawkeye, more lethal and reliable. He was already seeing play in higher ranks with people that could aim, and now he's a bit better. So I think Hawkeye, in general, is just going to be a better character for ranked play. Someone to keep your eye on, and a character that can definitely farm you out of a game if it's a good Hawkeye. And then Black Widow being more reliable in close range now, and has the capability of just getting applied with double Mantis damage boost to have damage boost for a very long time. I think this is going to be a lot of frustrating players playing against Hawkeyes, playing against Black Widows. So these is something that I want to keep, like, we keep our eye on here. I think there's a possibility for some really frustrating ranked metas forming, but I know most of the population won't see that, because Black Widow is a character, once again, that is only good or reasonable when players have very, very good mechanical skill. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the flyers. Human Torch, not likely to dominate, still strong, and I think this makes him quite a bit better, these changes, but he's definitely third, far weaker than Storm and Iron Man, so I think he could be good in ranked play, but I don't imagine he sees any meta play or anything like that. But Iron Man, yes, Iron Man got the massive HP buff when he activates his E or his Gamma E, and he is smaller, hitbox is smaller. Those two things together, combined with the Hulk buffs, I could very easily see Iron Man seeing consistent play, plus he can kill through defensive ultimates. So Iron Man's a character that I think could become very, very good this season, but we'll have to see. And with the addition of Iron Man being strong and Namor, Gamma Squid, and Hulk being good, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more Hulk bans again in ranked play. We come back to full circle, baby, full circle. But this is my meta predictions. There's a lot of interesting things, a lot of things that didn't change that will still be strong, and a lot of characters that did change that very likely could become the new meta staple. And we laid all of our thoughts here, but let us know if there's anything you agree or disagree with in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I really appreciate you coming. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.